Okay, Pastor Jared, would you come up, please?
Thank you for the opportunity to pray with you and for you. Let's pray together. Oh Lord Jesus, we do thank you for all that you've done for us, especially your coming and dying on the cross for us. I pray that your spirit would be made known to each person in this room today, that you would guide this group, that they would act in all that they do in accordance with your will, and that we would be able to know how you are guiding us to do what is in accordance with your will. Lord, bless us and bless this city. We thank you. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alderman French.
Here.
Alderman Anderson. Here. Alderman Bellamy.
Here.
Alderman Hobbs.
Here.
Vice Mayor Messick.
Here.
Alderman Parsley.
Here.
I hear a motion to approve the minutes of the August 2nd meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. The motion is as presented. Any discussions, any corrections of the minutes? Call the roll, please.
Alderman French. Alderman Anderson. Alderman Bellamy. Alderman Hobbs. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Parsley.
Correspondence.
Yes, ma'am. We have one thank you card. It says, City of Manchester, we deeply appreciate and gratefully acknowledge your kind expression of sympathy. It will always be remembered by the family. Roxanne, Patton, and family.
Go back, we can August the 18th also.
Okay, I'm sorry, did I have missed that? Okay, do I hear a motion to approve August the 18th minutes for the special call meeting?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? Okay, it has been moved and seconded, the motion is presented. Any corrections? Call roll, please.
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Anderson. Alderman Bellamy. Alderman Hobbs. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Parsley.
Any comments from the citizens at this time? Comments for me is, as I always like to welcome everybody here. I like to see a full house, and I just thank you for coming and showing interest in what's going on in their government. And I certainly do welcome every alderman to the meeting, and Attorney Johnson. Thank you. Okay, we'll get into committees. Not much has happened, but I guess we can just skip that part. But I'll call it out in case the directors have any. Safety.
Mayor, I have something that did not come from the safety committee, but it comes from a member of the safety committee, me. And I think it deals with an issue that needs to be laid to rest. I make a motion to hire Phil Sapp.
Okay, that has to be in new business. We cannot bring that up right now. Problem?
It's better suited for new business. Yes, if it's not a report from the committee, it's better suited for new business.
Can you hold that until
For new
new
business.
business?
As long as I get recognized first. Under new business.
Okay.
Okay.
Finance,
We do not have a meeting.
street,
We'll have a meeting Monday, September 12th at 5:30 at the street department.
water and sewer,
Have a meeting Thursday afternoon.
Recreation,
We have our Recreation Commission meeting this Thursday at the Trade Center. Also next week, September 12th to 18th, there's our annual meeting to shut down the recreation facility. We will have part-time staff there answering phones and making reservations. And then also the outdoor sports park at Westwood Elementary School, the construction on it has been completed. We still have some grant requirements and formal surveys and some programming we want to do with that project yet.
thank you. Okay, tourism, planning and zoning,
We'll have our meeting September 19th at 5:30.
that should be a very informative meeting, right?
Yes, we will be reviewing the updated land use plan.
Just encourage people to come and be a part of that meeting. Okay, information system,
We did not meet.
historic zoning.
Our meeting for this month is canceled.
It was canceled last week.
We'll get into resolution.
A resolution renaming Lonnie J. Norman Senior Boulevard back to Interstate Drive, sponsored by Alderman Alderman.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion?
The reason that I brought this up is Lonnie's a fine man. Lonnie did a great deal for the city. And I know Lonnie Norman from the time he first ran for office. Now, I don't believe Lonnie would appreciate or would be in favor of changing the street name if it's going to cost all those businesses several dollars to change their address, change their shipping, change their accounts receivable, and it's just going to be a high cost to the resident, or not the residents, the businesses along this line. At this point in time, we have a Lonnie Norman Drive, which runs off of Interstate Drive, and we have our Early Learning Center on Oakdale Street, which is named for Lonnie Norman, which is a very nice building. I looked at it, very nice. And I would be open and subject to naming anything anyone comes up to, as long as it does not cost the taxpayers or the businesses of the city to do it. I don't think Lonnie would want to cost these business people money just so he could have two signs on the end of two roads.
And, of course, there was just 5 members of the board, and I couldn't vote, but I take responsibility for not stepping in, and you did vote for it. You did vote. It's an example of sometimes walking all the way through before we vote, we can always put it off. And I take responsibility. I take responsibility as mayor that I apologize for the businesses, any hardship that they've had, and but any more discussion before we vote?
I did vote for it the first time. I'm asking for this change because I never dreamed that it would cost the businesses the kind of money it's going to cost the businesses. So I'm not for it for that only reason, and I don't thought Lonnie would be for it for that very reason.
Okay, any more discussion? Call the roll, please.
Alderman French.
No.
Alderman Anderson. Aye. Alderman Bellamy. Alderman Hobbs.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Parsley.
B, a resolution approving the contract with St. John Engineering, and I can stop at that time. I talked to Mr. St. John today, and we both asked that that be passed till the next meeting. I think we about have the few little issues we had worked out that should be ready to go next week.
Thank you.
C, a resolution authorizing the purchase of 2 Ford F-350 crew cabs at a cost of $79,301 each, 2 Ford 350s at $42,797 each, and a John Deere 5067E utility tractor at $39,179.69 for the use of the Public Works Department of the City of Manchester, sponsored by Vice Mayor Messi.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Are there any discussion? Is there any discussion on the motion?
Is the only is the difference in price for the crew cab and the non-crew cab?
It was the accessories, I believe, Public Works can speak to.
Two of them's gonna be like dumps, F-350 dumps, and then two of them's gonna be regular four-door pickups.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
one big-
the dump options, no problem. Thank you.
We've already, this passed in the budget, so it's nothing new. So, I mean, it's already been budgeted and it's paid for out of that budget.
Thank you. Any more discussion? And Alderman Hobbs, I really appreciate you combing over this agenda and picking up and asking questions before it came to the table. Any more discussion? If not, call the roll, please.
Alderman French. Alderman Anderson. Alderman Bellamy. Alderman Hobbs. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Parsley.
D, a resolution to authorize application for Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation Local Parks and Recreation Fund grant in the amount of $750,000, which requires a 100% match from the City of Manchester for field lot renovations at Fred Dedman and Dave King Parks, sponsored by Vice Mayor Messick. AJ, you had something to speak of.
This resolution should actually be for to enter into a contract with the state for this project. The resolution that's presented, the previous board voted on and passed.
I'll make a motion that we enter into a contract to match the grant. Not what this is written.
Motion to amend.
Well, I was just gonna make a motion straightforward, so we don't have to amend this.
Second. Okay. It's been moved and seconded. The motion is presented. Any discussions on this?
I have a question, AJ. There were two $750,000 grants. One was the original grant that we're committed to if we choose to do it. The other one was a $750,000 grant that's just kind of hanging out there if we need it. Which one is this?
So originally the grant was $500,000.
500,000.
And then the state came back to us because of COVID increase of cost. They offered us an additional $250,000. And that's when we voted on was to increase from 500 to 250, making a total of $750,000 that the state will give us, and then we have to match an additional $750,000.
So this is to fix the ball field lights.
It's to replace 6 fields. The ones that have wood poles, change them over to metal poles. The ones that already have metal poles, change them over to LED. And that's to also put all 6 fields on LED.
Have you got any bids? I know you've got Musco, have you got any other bids?
No, I don't have any bids on the project. We haven't got to the point that we can bid the project out because we haven't secured the contract yet.
AJ, I have a question. Is this part of where the young lady was injured? Is this part of that?
That field will have LED retrofit put on it, but that issue's already been corrected. We've already made that.
Right, but this right here puts everything back to new.
On that field and 5 others, correct.
Yes.
And now, that field and 1 other may have some additional work that needs to be done outside of the LED retrofit, which I've already talked to St. John Engineering about.
So I have a question, Rick. It's just in the budget. Did we budget this? Okay.
Any more discussion? Call the roll, please.
Alderman French. Alderman Anderson. Alderman Bellamy. Alderman Hobbs. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Parsley.
E, a resolution authorizing the City of Manchester to apply for State of Tennessee Environmental Conservation Water Infrastructure Investment Program, also known as the American Rescue Fund, sponsored by Vice Mayor Messing.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Are there any discussion, any questions? Call the roll, please.
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Anderson. Aye. Alderman Bellamy. Alderman Hobbs. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Parsley.
F, a resolution adopting a plan of services preliminary to an annexation of 12 and 44/100 acres of property owned by Curl Properties Limited Liability Company located on Oakdale Street, sponsored by Vice Mayor Messing.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Are there any discussion, any questions, any comments?
I have actually,
Would you come up and state your name and your address?
hi, I'm Amanda Montez. I live at 1404 Oakdale Street, and so my property is surrounding this one. I have some handouts here that I would like to present, if that's okay.
Would you hold it like 3-5 minutes?
So the first thing I wanted to correct was the public notice that was in the paper. It does show Pearl Properties owning that 50-foot roadway frontage in front of Kingsley Lane. So I wanted to correct that, and that second page shows where I actually own that property, that 50 feet, and it's actually an easement of ingress and egress. So just to be clear, this property will only have one entryway and one exit to the R4, which they're trying to change here. So I just wanted to present you, if you haven't been able to visit the site, kind of what we're looking at. The road is actually a one entryway road. So you can see Oakdale Street, the subject property, both ways. Oakdale Street goes down to a one-way street. Right there, it's about 12 feet. You can see with the vehicle there is no passage, there's no shoulder, there's nothing there. So the infrastructure of the road itself, there probably needs to be some kind of traffic study to see if this infrastructure is really going to hold there, if we're going to have to widen some roads. If you take a look at the Elm Street, there's photos of the road itself and the condition that it's in for you to look at. If you look at Elm Street, this is where Oakdale intersects with Elm Street, the first road to get to the end of this property. It is also a one-way street. That corner there, the road is kind of eroded because that is a flood zone. That road does cover with water, and it's not necessarily a safe passage when there's high water there. Sewer can back up there as well. You can see on Elm Street, this is what R4 is going to look like in reality. Again, this is in my front yard. Property value will depreciate, but looking at this, we're jam-packed in there. So this, again, is what we're looking at down that street. I have a city map of one-way streets in that area off of Oakdale. So you can see Century Street. Ingram Street's a little bit wider, but still tight. There's no shoulder. And Elm Street are all one-way streets to Oakdale, which is getting to that property. So those streets are going to have to be widened. When I say they're one-way streets, there's no passage without going off into the shoulder, especially on Century Street and Elm Street. Also, our schools, I have 3 children that one goes to Westwood Middle and 2 to Westwood Elementary. And I provide some traffic pictures for everyone in the morning, what it's like getting to Westwood Elementary and Middle School, because our traffic, like I said, is very much backed up. School is very near capacity. I included the letters that were sent from Dr. Joey Vaughn stating that Manchester City Schools need to construct new school buildings and that will need 3 years to plan for such growth. And then also I included the City of Manchester Water and Sewer Department saying that the city is under an agreed order with the Texas Department of Environment and Conservation due to existing conditions of some portions of the system. There is an area of concern directly downstream of this proposed development. Therefore, TDEC will be reviewing it closely, and the design plans will have to be proposed and of course passed. But obviously, I'm not in favor of this, but not just for selfish reasons. I think we need to be a little bit more selective of the type of properties we put in there. Thank you.
Any more discussion? Any comments?
I have a couple of questions. Hey, Brittany, the R4 now, you can't build, the new R4 that's coming along, you can't build 5 or 6 apartments in a row on that, can you? You've got 3,000 square feet.
R4 is not changing, as well as allow 3,000 square foot per family. If they want to do a single-family home subdivision development, at this point, the dimensional changes that you're about to see, that will allow a 50-foot wide lot versus what was a 75-foot wide lot. But R4 does allow for townhomes that are next to each other, that's considered multifamily.
But they have to have 3,000 square feet per.
3,000 square feet per family and a 9,000 minimum square foot lot if they want to do like individual lots.
So you could build a multi-family home on a 5,000 square foot lot.
No, but they have 13 plus or minus acres there, so
Right.
most definitely do multifamily.
So is it all been subdivided down?
No, at this time they're simply asking for annexation. They haven't given me any kind of subdivision plat or site plan for review at this time.
So we're not voting on anything other than the annex.
Right.
And we'll vote later at the next.
Right, if they choose to do a plat, they'll have to come forward with a preliminary plat and a final plat. If they choose to do a multifamily development, they'll have to come forward with an engineering site plan or subdivision of the engineer construction plans, all of which are reviewed.
So we're also not voting on whether to take it as R4 or R.
Yes, you are. So the resolution is for the adoption of plans of service that are in your packet. There's a resolution for the annexation of the property itself, and there's an ordinance, a first reading of an ordinance to zone the process on it.
Any more discussion?
So, who's representing the water? You can sit over there. What is it going to cost the city to take the water and sewer into that area? Or is the developer going to pay for that? The reason I'm asking this is at one point in time, we did not annex Kingsway Lane because it was not financially feasible to annex that area because it would cost too much to put water and sewer there.
Correct.
I just wonder, this big parcel out here, is the city required to put that in there?
Generally, the contractor, developer, generally when they request annexation, they put all the infrastructure in at their cost and they donate it to the city.
That's all covered in the plan of service letter that we provided.
I read the plan of services, I didn't distinguish who was footing the bill. I may miss that.
Any more discussion?
I just want to clarify that this F, resolution F, is actually just adopting plans of service. It's not the next resolution, it's the actual annexation.
Call roll, please. Public hearing? Oh, I'm sorry. It's public hearing. Stop, everybody.
Should be on the next motion.
My concerns are about the plan of service. The lack of the written report, the lack of an implementation
Okay,
schedule.
would you state your name? Is
Sarah Bradley, Manchester, Tennessee. Former high school teacher, advocate for a new high school.
Just.
The plan of service has a letter from Manchester City Schools as Ms. Montez indicated, the city school system is aware of the need to build new schools. That will take at least 3 years. There's never been a better time to build schools. That's the good news, all right? I've been brainstorming. I have some ideas I can discuss with anyone who wants to after this meeting or
Okay.
anytime.
Are you a resident of the city of Manchester?
I am a resident of the city of Manchester, yes. My concern is that there is a letter from city schools which discusses the needs of city schools to build and construct. As you all know, city schools only go to grade 8. Any annexation, I believe, should include a statement from county schools about the ability of the county high school, which Manchester City students attend, to accommodate those students at the high school. I can tell you right now, I've got charts, color-coded or plain. We've got to do something about the high school.
Okay, wait, this is a city meeting.
Ma'am, I'm aware.
It is not about the high school.
Are you building a high school in the city?
This is about a plan of services. for this
I'm bringing up a
subdivision.
need,
If you
a
will stay on
public
the
need.
subject, you'll stay on the subject, Ms. Brennan.
If a high school education is not a service that this board needs to provide to the public,
Now, if it's not related to the city, we're not talking about whether we build a high school, I would ask that you be seated. Because we're not talking about high school, we're not talking about county, and this is plan of services that is in every packet.
so where is high school education contained in
Okay,
this
I would
plan of
ask
service?
that we're going to talk about the high school. This is about, we do not have high schools in the city. I would ask that you would be seated or be escorted down the road.
I would ask that in the future, this board please consider the impact that annexations and rezonings have on the high school.
Okay,
due to
okay.
the lack of high school.
Ma'am, I can
in
ask an officer to
Manchester
take you
City.
down the road. But
I'm going to move on from that subject.
okay, I would ask that you would sit down.
I'm not allowed to speak on other items on
Well,
the plan of service.
You have not been respecting the order of this chair or this board, and I would ask that you would sit down, please. Or be escorted down the road. I've asked you.
Duly noted.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments in regard to this resolution with plant services? Thank you.
Okay. My name is Charles Hills. I'm a resident of Manchester, about this property and the annexation, and I'm a little bit befuddled. You're going to pass an annexation on a property where the gentleman wants to change to an R4. However, there is no plat, there is no plans for sewer, concrete, or that's just a animation. There's no,
We have a master plan for addresses and completion located on the track. But there are some more areas, Coffee Street, Taylor Street, or even Oak Drive. That makes it
You can distribute from
So is that in fact inaccurate? If that's the case, I think.
Brittany, would you address that? Is
The map in the public notice is incorrect. I pulled that off the back of the website. The legal description that is in the resolution does not include that right of way. That is a fixed map. But I would, but the legal description does include that.
I'd like to agree with both districts here. The mistake needs to be corrected, and I would support continuing it till the next board meeting to get all the P's and Q's lined up to where there's no discrepancies in anything that can come back on us. And I'm very concerned with we've got 6 apartments in the city, and 2 of them, it's a third of the apartments in the city's cracked. Did not have a real favorable plan of services.
Okay, thank
But, one question, that inaccuracy is going to have to be corrected by the assessor's office. Batteries.
I can get with the surveyor who did the legal description and get it done.
So, did you make a
you.
motion?
Council, would you weigh in on this? Weigh in on
So
this.
the picture in itself doesn't make it a defective public notice. The description of the property to be annexed is listed in the resolution. And it is out there for public notice. There is an inaccuracy, as Brittany said, that depicts the easement, but that doesn't make the resolution defective. Giving public notice to the public is getting them here and letting them know what piece of property or the area we're talking about, and obviously they're here. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that the notice itself is not defective. If the board of Mayor and Alderman want to pass it and get it exactly right with the picture, that of course is what the board of Mayor and Alderman is right.
And Alderman French, you have made a motion to.
Can, there's a motion and a second. The resolution reads, I'm not going to make a question. Yeah, I would fully answer your question first of all. I agree with the, I understand the legal assessment of that. We also just talked about public perception. I sure hate the idea that we're creating something that's inaccurate. That's clearly going to be made. That's my feeling. So I would like to make a motion first of all, and have that re-graded.
There's a motion on the table to postpone this. Okay.
Do we have to trouble on the first motion first?
We're going on here.
Once we passed,
In discussion on postponing this.
Yeah, right, we go.
Whoever made the first motion can withdraw the motion.
It's not gonna work. That's a different plug.
I'll make a motion to postpone.
Second.
Any more discussion on this? If we're voting on postponing this annexation, plan of service.
Try again. I mean, it's,
Ordinances.
so we got some time.
Alderman French. Alderman Anderson. Alderman Bellamy. Alderman Hawes. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Parsley.
Make a motion to postpone as well.
Yeah, we. As to G, a resolution annexing 12 and 44 acres of property owned by 12 properties. A motion has been made to postpone as well.
Second.
Any discussion? I'll vote please.
Alderman French. Alderman Anderson. Alderman Bellamy. Alderman Hawes. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Parsley.
Now the ordinance is number 8, the second reading of an ordinance to amend sections of Title 14, Chapter 6 of the Manchester Municipal Code relative to zoning districts, which was sponsored by Alderman Nichols.
Second.
Any discussion on this ordinance? I'll vote please.
Alderman French. Alderman Anderson. Alderman Bellamy. Alderman Hawes. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Parsley.
B, a second reading of an ordinance to add provisions to Manchester Municipal Code relative to the tethering of animals, sponsored by Alderman Nichols.
Any discussion on this ordinance? Call the roll, please.
Alderman French. Alderman Anderson. Aye. Alderman Bellamy. Alderman Hodges. Vice Mayor Messina. Alderman Parsley.
C, a second reading of an ordinance adding provisions to Manchester Municipal Code regarding minimum standards for enclosures for dogs, sponsored by Alderman Nichols.
Sure.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, the motion is as presented. In discussion.
Alderman French. Alderman Anderson. Alderman Bellamy. Alderman Hodges. Vice Mayor Messina. Alderman Parsley.
D, a second reading of an ordinance adding provisions to Manchester Municipal Code regarding confinement of female dogs in estrus, sponsored by Alderman Nichols.
Do I hear a motion?
Trying to get rich off this, we're just covering our costs, and that's what we're trying to do.
Any more discussion?
Alderman French. Alderman Anderson. Alderman Bellamy. Alderman Hodges. Vice Mayor Messina. Alderman Parsley.
F, first reading of an ordinance zoning 12.44 acres owned by Pearl Properties located on Oakdale Street.
The motion has been made and seconded that we would postpone this. In discussion on this? Call the roll, please.
Alderman French. Alderman Anderson. Alderman Bellamy. Alderman Hodges. Vice Mayor Messina. Alderman Parsley.
G, first reading of an ordinance rezoning property owned by Chad and Leanne Stacy on the corner of Haley Drive and Stroud Drive from R3 to R4, sponsored by Vice Mayor Messina.
Do I hear a motion? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. The motion is as presented. Any discussion on this?
I have a question. Brittany, it's come out of the planning and zoning committee with a positive recommendation.
Yes, sir.
What's the difference between an R3 and an R4? For those of us who are new.
And R4 is 5,000 square foot lot, the setbacks 5 foot on both sides, 20, help me out, Brittany, 20 foot on the front, 50 foot lot.
So an R3 for multifamily purposes allows for 6,000 square foot per family, whereas an R4, you have to have 3,000 square foot per family. So essentially with an R4, you can double your density.
But just because it's an R4 doesn't mean it's a multifamily, it just allows for multifamily. Could
It
be
allows for
single-
multifamily typically, and the multifamily, but it does not have to.
Yeah, could be single family as well.
Any more discussion? Call the roll, please.
Alderman French. Alderman Anderson. No. Alderman Bellamy. Alderman Hodges. Vice Mayor Messina. Alderman Parsley.
I, first reading of an ordinance rezoning property owned by Josh Moore at 815 Mill Street from R3 to R4, sponsored by Vice Mayor Messina.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I hear a second?
It should be made,
Yes, I'm sorry. It would be Josh Moore.
Same thing.
It's
I'll
not.
make a motion on Madison Street.
Do I hear a second?
That's it.
Any discussion?
Big piece of property it is.
It's not that big, it's where the builder's gonna put it.
They're essentially adjacent to each other nearly. One, it has a Madison Street thing, and the other one is on Mill Street, but they're both owned by Josh Moore.
And just a reminder, this is in our packets. We have, look at it. It does help me to look at the, okay. Any more discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Anderson,
No.
Alderman Bellamy,
No.
Alderman Hobbs,
No.
Vice Mayor Messing, Alderman Parsley.
Aye. First reading of an ordinance rezoning property owned by Josh Moore at 815 Mill Street from R3 to R4.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have some discussion. Anything they put on this property is an improvement to what's there. Same as the last property, we voted that. It came out of planning commission with favorable recommendation, and if we want to sit up there on this board and say yes, planning commission, that's fine. But I'm not a big, I just don't think that's right. That's what we respect them, we put them on commission, we give them a job. And we don't have to agree with everything they say. But I think they're absolutely right on these two pieces of property.
I never did get my answer to how big is the property. They told me where it was at, and I know where it was at, but they didn't tell me how big it is. I keep vision.
Is it not in the pack? Then you should know how big the police property is.
You're exactly right.
But, do you know how big the property is now? You don't right to know that.
No, it isn't.
Okay, Brittany, can you tell him how big the property is?
The one on Madison Street, I believe, is 3.5 acres. And then the one on Mill Street is right at 2.5 acres, I believe. It's actually not in my packet. But the one on Madison Street has potential for 50+ families, and the one on Mill Street has potential for about the same.
Meaning, I mean,
Potentially, and that's just rough numbers, that's not exact.
Madison and the Mill Street is both about 50.
I believe so, like I said, the packet that I have actually.
is that 50 each or combined 50?
Each. They do come with a positive recommendation from the planning commission, and I will also point out that the one on Madison Street, a good portion of it is in a floodway. So there's no development allowed within the floodways, so that number will significantly decrease due to that.
It's in the floodway, part of it is, there's a difference between being in a floodway and being in a flood zone.
Yeah, all of it is in the floodplain,
Oh, yeah.
it can't allow for development, but development cannot occur in the floodway. So that will reduce the amount of families that will be on that property.
Right now, they're growing up pieces. They're nice at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, just real quick. That boy got me, have all my life. That area, believe it or not, I actually lived on Mill Street when I was a kid.
I don't live on Mill Street though.
707 Mill Street. Anyway, what we see, and I'm seeing more of it, we're building, we're growing, I know that. But what we're seeing is all these apartments and stuff going up next to houses and stuff. Now, I live on Spring Street, and we've done nice things for our property. But I didn't want to see all these apartments come up and take my property down. It's an old piece of property, but that's what's going to end up happening. It's like, if all these apartments keep coming.
This is not close to your property.
It's around the corner.
This is not a public meeting.
I'm sorry, I'm just saying, I just want to know that it's just approving these R4, allowing more people, there's something. Approving this all
It is not a
R4.
public meeting, I don't want to be disrespectful, but I have to,
I appreciate that.
we're staying with
Okay.
Robert's rules.
I'm just saying, that's how it feels. You're approving this zoning,
Okay.
and it affects other people.
Thank you.
Not allowing the public.
Any more, this is not a public hearing, we're sticking with Robert's rules. But anyway,
Robert didn't call you.
so. Any more discussion?
So we're going on, let's read
We're voting on Jill Street. Call roll, please.
Alderman French.
Pass.
Alderman Anderson. No. Alderman Bellamy.
No.
Alderman Hobbs.
No.
Vice Mayor Messing. Alderman Parsley.
I'll cast my vote as no. I'll cast my vote as no.
All right. Moving right along to old business. New business.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I want to make a motion with our Bill South of Manchester Police Department Chief, effective after the vote.
You ready to make that one?
I am.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
The comment. I would like to say that I honor that I made the decision that we would bring MTAS in, and they would interview and take applications, and they would make a recommendation, and I have said, with that recommendation, that from there, if people want to build sites or John Doe or whoever, but it gives everybody an opportunity to put in their application, and it knocks out any appearance of the good old boy system. And I can say that I highly honor Bill Sykes, and that is the reason that I made this decision and recommendation with that MTAS would come in and they would do interviews. I think for the healthiness of our police department, I think it's for the best. But that is my opinion, and any more discussion on this?
Mr. Mayor, we've got two good men in this department that are capable of running this department. They're very close. The reason I recommended Mr. South is I think it's best for the city and best for the police department at this time. Nothing against anybody else. But we've got two good people here. And if we can't hire from within, and we can't promote when we've got two good people, and we want to go out here to Timbuktu and bring somebody in here like they did in some of these other cities in the last 6 months, or come in here and want to treat people like dirt because they don't know jack poo. These two officers back here that have worked this long, they know, almost said bad word, most every citizen in this town. Now, I'd rather have a man that knows every citizen in this town. Both of these men are quality. I would rather have anybody that knows our city, our issues, and our needs better than bringing let MTAS, who now MTAS knows nothing about what's going on in Manchester.
When we hired directors, positions for directors, we always had an application process. We interviewed. We worked hard. We worked hard to put AJ in place. We spent hours. But we didn't just one night at a board meeting. We did not just say, we want AJ. And AJ, does that make you feel better that you were vetted and you came out as our director? That we just, one night at a board meeting, that somebody just didn't say, I want AJ. But that is, I will stand on that, and it's the board's decision. Any more discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I call.
I do have a question. Would it be lawful for us to vote on that? Is that an okay way to hire a chief of police? Would the chairman that was saying to come up? It's fine, there's no violation?
There is no violation, but I just think that it's a position.
I'll express my mind to speak. Go ahead.
I can't help but to point out the irony that we got in the clause for a motion to skip due diligence. There's not another motion to hire someone else. The only thing that we have on the table in front of us is to go through a process of fact gathering. That, the irony, you don't want us to do that for hiring police chief, but you do want us to do that for zoning. I'm consistent. Tonight, I made it very clear, these motions postponed. We need to do the research. Bob, I'm going to echo what you said. I agree there are maybe more than 2 people within our police department that qualify. In fact, I can tell you right now, there are more than 2 people in our police department that if MTAS gave a recommendation for, that I would support for this position. I don't understand why we don't leave that open for them to apply. And Bill Seif is an amazing individual. He's been nothing but a consummate professional. I suspect that he would apply, and I suspect that he would be high on the recommendation. This isn't an emotional decision, it's just fact-finding. Let everyone go through a fair and equitable process to be interviewed. Again, it's not lost on me the irony that we don't want to do our due diligence on hiring a police chief, but we do want to do our due diligence on this. Quite frankly, I'm just going to go back and reference these votes, on these last 2 votes. Your job as an alderman is not to vote on whether or not we like these. It's does the policy support that? You know, we need to change the policy. I am open to that. We've just done so with zoning. But it's not, I mean, quite frankly, we can be sued on those 2 and we'll lose in litigation because they do meet the criteria that we have set out as a board. We set the policy, and same with this. We made a motion several hires back, and Mayor Howard is the chief administrative executive. It was her recommendation to take it in task, let them do their assessment, and then and we supported that for other positions. I just don't understand why we're not supporting for this position. That has 0 to say with our department. I agree with your sentiment, and my agreement with that sentiment actually was even brought to my opinion when we hired AJ. I absolutely had a consideration that he was local, he knew the department, he knew the people. That was part of my consideration in hiring him. But we still went through the process. Before we just start doing whatever we want to do, just follow.
How many people did we interview for the rate director?
I did not participate in the interviews. I think it was
How many?
10.
10? You drug 10 people in here from who knows where, knowing that AJ was one man.
Absolutely not. That's not at all true.
That's not even close to the truth.
No.
We spent hours, and I had to lay down the fact that AJ had been here as a young man and worked his way up, and I had to lay down and looked at all the facts. But
Well, we jumped from police department to rec center, but I can ask you a question.
okay, okay.
What? Can I ask another question?
Yes, you may.
So, just hypothetically, right? It doesn't work and Mr. Seif's not picked tonight. Then what happens?
Get rid of it, get another.
No, I mean, listen, I think we're doing Mr. Seif and anybody else this service. This is my first day on the job, so to speak, right? And I mean, at the end of the day, I'd like to at least know who applied, when we cut it off, and how we did some of that. Because listen, if it doesn't go the right way tonight, I think that's actually a little backwards. Right? Just my opinion.
I agree with Bob on one thing. There are 2 people sitting out there in that audience who are more than qualified to run that police department. Where I disagree with you wholeheartedly is that both of those people deserve a chance to interview for this job. And that's my say.
Everyone on the board had a chance to speak.
You know, I don't understand the process. Mr. Yuck has been leaving for over a month, and they hadn't nothing come up about this.
Okay, MTS
I
has,
mean, we had none.
he was still here at MTS. MTS is moving right now. I'm gonna speak to them tomorrow, and they're gonna move in with their team. And they're gonna interview. Everybody's putting in an application, they're gonna interview, and they're gonna recommend. And out of that recommendation, whoever, you can accept whoever they recommend.
Ain't that, you know, I think we're all pretty well convinced Mr. Sapp or Mr. Foley, either one is very qualified to be our chief employees. I mean, why are we going out and looking somewhere else?
Well, I just asked a question. I think that it was in the paper, and it was actually yesterday.
It
to turn in
was.
for it.
MTS was brought in several, as soon as, probably 2 months ago. And they have already started taking that, they've handled everything for the city, the application process, everything. They're bringing in a team to assess everyone that's applied.
And you know, are we gonna start, every time there's an opening, just like, when we show up at a board meeting and somebody makes a motion and so-and-so gets hired? There is a long, drawn-out process that we go through. But anyway,
City Attorney, I'll call for the motion to vote 3 times. And other people wanted to talk, and that's fine. We're beating a dead horse. Let's vote. If Bill gets enough votes, he'll be chief. If he don't, we'll go back to your plan, Mayor, and bring people from all over the country here and sit right in here and want to be our police chief.
okay,
And I don't know a soul sitting in this
okay,
room.
I understand the question, but I thought every board member sitting up here has to speak.
They do.
Call the roll, please. And everybody's had rights to speak. Call the roll, please.
Alderman French? No. Alderman Anderson?
Aye.
Alderman Bellamy?
Aye.
Alderman Hobbs?
I understand.
Vice Mayor Messick? Alderman Parsley?
You didn't get 4 votes, I don't think, did you?
Does he not get an opportunity, did you, under Robert's rules?
He abstained.
Pull his abstain and vote?
Yes.
Yes, he can.
Can I make a comment?
Yes,
Before I vote, I'm not willing to make that decision tonight. I know both people personally, and I need to have the opportunity to look over what they've done. I'm not saying they're not the right candidates, but I'm just not prepared to do that tonight. So I'm gonna stay abstaining, I'm not changing the vote.
So we got a 3-2 vote. So the motion fails.
So,
Let him task come in and have her party.
so, are you saying you're,
I'm not.
okay? Everything has to come in tomorrow. Okay, we got it. On the agenda, there is, the new commission members, and I will say that the first vacancy that, for the,
Before we get into that, could I make one motion? I'd like to make a motion that we put signage on Interstate Drive, dedicate that to the former mayor, Lonnie Lane. And I'd like for Ryan and George, street department to get together and order that signage. That's my motion.
that's it here.
Didn't we vote earlier?
No, we voted not to name it. We didn't vote not to dedicate it.
Yeah,
It's just simply the signs.
my meeting's name is dedicated.
Here.
Second.
Any comments on this? Call roll, please.
Alderman French? Alderman Anderson?
No.
Alderman Bellamy?
No.
Alderman Hobbs? Vice Mayor Messick? Alderman Horsley?
Get into the appointments to the commission. On the planning commission, the vacancy, I do appoint that in Ken Sugarman. I'm appointing him to the planning commission.
Mayor, could I interrupt you a minute? Sure. While we're still in this, you know, something that I've been sitting here thinking about. You know, we've got an active police chief back there. And we've got an active water director. Are they being paid for director's pay?
They're not.
They're
They're not directors.
They're in charge.
They're the assistant director.
Well, I think that they should be paid. I mean, the director's paid. Well, I think Mr. Pimple's been on for what, huh?
Are you making a motion?
Yes, I am. I'm making a motion.
Second. We have to have a budget amendment for that. But the chief's salary's already in the budget, they shouldn't have to have a budget amendment. Just asking.
So we're making a motion to give them a raise
No, we're making a motion for them to receive the pay.
until a director's in
You
place.
know, we got somebody acting as chief, and then we've got somebody acting as director of the water. Why would
Can I
they-
inquiry your motion?
Pardon?
Can I inquiry your motion? Can you make a motion instead of,
I will make a motion.
hold on, just instead, I'm sorry to interrupt. I want to speak here for a second. I would love for your motion, I would support your motion if it said moving forward, interim directors. So it's not just temporary on these two particular ones, but interim directors for the sewer. And then that way, that will be policy moving forward.
Right.
So that's what I would like for your motion to.
Yes,
Right. I think it'd be best if we put a time on that. Because there's a lot of times when the chief will be out of town for a week and it says I'll take.
I mean, interim director and leave if they're not being an active chief. Like an actual appointed interim, not someone that's serving in the role. But someone, right now, we don't have our police chief, our water director, it's clearly defined who it is.
So we're gonna make that retroactive?
So, somebody quits, director quits, and we've got assistant director that's holding it in the road. That day, are we saying that day that the director quits,
sure.
that the assistant starts getting the same pay?
The day that they take over?
That's the motion you're making.
Yes, sir.
And we had a second on that motion? Okay, the motion has,
We also include that to be retroactive, right, in that motion. A second is retroactive, the original motion.
original motion. That in the original, okay. Any discussion on this, any more discussion on this?
Just, vote on.
When a director quits, automatically, assistant, would you state it's best if you state your motion.
Well, the acting director, they've been acting like in the case of the water department, been for a month. I think he should get the director's pay.
Is it when we name him as an interim director or something?
Yeah, I think that's key, that's a good point.
So I'm saying, if you name him as interim director, there's no period of time until the job's filled, so you don't can match Bob's time and pay. And they would receive that pay from then until somebody else is filled. That's what I'm looking on.
And just like how assistant chief has been called assistant chief, but he hasn't been called an interim. does it automatically come in the interim?
You would not make that decision.
Yeah.
So unless I'm going to call.
Somebody's got to be appointed interim, right? I mean, if there's a vacancy, we've got to have a leader. And I think by default, if you don't want one to go to the assistant, I would support that, or this board would name an interim.
Everybody knows what we're voting on? Any more discussion? Call for vote, please.
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Anderson. Aye. Alderman Bellamy.
Aye.
Alderman Hobbs. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Parsley.
Moving right along, the planning commission, again, I have recommended, and it's the mayoral appointment, Ken Silverling. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. And also on rec commission, the two applicants, we have two vacancies. I make a recommendation, and it's my appointment. I'm appointing Leslie Grassfield and Freddie Powell. Okay, moving down to water and sewer. This is a board appointment. There's two vacancies. I am recommending, but it is your decision. You can put someone else on there. Michael Anderson and Terrence Hillsman.
They're on there currently, and I've served on the board for a year, a little over. I tell you, they're good people, they do a good job.
Are you making the motion that those two?
I would.
We recommend that we want to also. Well, I'll make a motion for Terrence Hillsman and Daniel Stevens.
So did I make my motion first?
Okay, but we'll take on.
So I made a motion.
No,
We don't have a second. Do we have an opportunity to have a second?
Not yet. I'll second Marcus.
So Donnie will. Okay, so right now. Okay, right now, on the table is Mark's motion, and it is Michael Anderson and Terrence Hill. Do I hear a second on his motion?
Second.
Any discussion on this motion? Okay. Call the roll, please.
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Anderson. No. Alderman Bellamy.
No.
Alderman Hobbs. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Parsley.
No.
All right, moving right along to 5 vacancies. We had 5 vacancies and 5 applicants. Teresa McFadden, Edwin Knox, Cindy Weber, Jay Tressler, and Deidre Goins. Hear a motion to accept these 5.
So moved.
Do you hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Anderson. Aye. Alderman Bellamy.
No.
Alderman Hobbs.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Parsley.
Okay, next on tourism, the applicants that we have are Kevin Sherrill, Joseph Sherrill, Megan Jackson, Lori West, Aaron Kesley, Rebecca Brandon.
Okay, I'll make the motion, Lori West and Keely Grove, Aaron Keely.
Do I hear a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I didn't see the citizen participation forms in the packet. Am I overlooking them, or do we typically get them when we have citizen improvements.
Those are the ones we emailed today, and then the reason it was so late, we were still getting applicants up to yesterday.
Okay, thank you.
And I will say that Kevin Sherrill has done a good job on that. So we have a motion and a second on Lori West and Aaron. Any more discussion on this?
Alderman French,
Pass.
Alderman Anderson. Pass. Alderman Bellamy,
I don't know nobody on there, so I'm gonna vote for him.
Alderman Hobbs, Vice Mayor Messick,
No.
Alderman Parsley, Alderman French,
Pass.
Alderman Anderson. Pass.
And that one failed. Do we have another motion? I can say I recommend, but right now I'm not voting, but Kevin Sherrill and Joseph Sherrill. Do we have a motion? Do we have anybody else serve? Tourism.
I'd make a motion to put Kevin Sherrill and Aaron Miller Healy on.
Okay. Let's toss that one out there. We have a second on that.
I'll second it. I want to make clear I'm passing because I didn't check my email and get these, and so I don't feel informed enough to vote on this. Not that I have a problem with any of these people. I think it's wonderful they all want to serve.
Any more discussion on this? Okay, we're voting on Kevin Sherrill and Aaron Kesley? Pardon?
Aaron Miller.
Aaron Dale, yeah, okay, I know about Aaron. Okay, so, any discussion on these two? Call the roll, please.
Alderman French,
Pass.
Alderman Anderson. Pass. Alderman Bellamy, Alderman Hobbs, Vice Mayor Messick, Alderman Parsley.
Pass.
Okay, let's toss it back out there. I mean, I can say, anybody that wants to serve on these committees, I just really honor them. Okay, we have another recommendation. Again, I highly recommend Kevin Sherrill and Joseph Sherrill, but I can't vote.
Related?
Possible to
They're related.
No.
Pardon?
So it's possible to do one at a time?
We could do that.
I mean, maybe we can.
Okay, let's
one, get another.
Okay, now your motion for one,
Yeah.
Lori. Okay. I hear a motion for Lori West, I hear a second on that.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion on Lori? Call the roll, please.
Alderman French,
Pass.
Alderman Anderson. Pass. Alderman Bellamy, Alderman Hobbs, Vice Mayor Messick, Alderman Parsley.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna make clear, I'm abstaining for any future votes on tourism commission. So you four understand, y'all have to come to consensus if there's gonna be an appointment, if Ms. Andrews is not gonna vote. I just wanna make that fair to y'all. I'm not voting for any of them.
Okay. We'll try it one more time.
You can just go from the top and go down the list.
Okay, Kevin Sherrill. Do I hear a motion for Kevin Sherrill?
So moved, let's go.
Do I hear a second on Kevin?
Second.
Okay. In discussion? Call the roll, please.
Alderman French.
Pass.
Alderman Henderson. Pass. Alderman Bellamy. Alderman Hall. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Parsley.
Going down, Joseph Sherrill.
Make a motion.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? He is a chiropractor that works in this town. Eager to serve. Here's my comment. Can we just run this one since we have a motion and a second? He has served. Okay. Call roll, please.
Alderman French.
Pass.
Alderman Henderson. Pass. Alderman Bellamy. Alderman Hobbs. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Parsley.
Joseph Sherrill. Joseph Sherrill.
You were not. All righty, going down.
Correct me if I'm wrong, we were coming to consensus on one hand for the mayor.
I'm sure that's right.
Yeah, so there's no consensus, you make it.
Yeah.
Okay, there's no,
For sure.
Yeah, I'm 90% sure about that too.
if that is the case, then I'm going to go on record Kevin Sherrill and Joseph Sherrill. If that's the case. If it isn't, we'll take it up next month. Okay, moving on down the list to Greater Manchester Economic Development Board. I make a recommendation, well, I guess you better not. That's your vote.
You appoint the other ones, why not appoint that?
Well, that's because we couldn't have a consent.
I'll make a motion for Martha Henley.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for Martha Henley. Any discussion on this?
Alderman French. Alderman Anderson. Pass. Alderman Bellamy. Alderman Hobbs. Vice Mayor Messick.
Absolutely.
Alderman Parsley.
Okay. Moving right along to the committee and commissions and vice mayor sign. Okay.
Make a motion, we pass as a slate.
Did I hear a second on that?
Second.
Pass it as a slate. Vote for everybody.
Okay. Any discussion on this? I can say, I have worked and worked to try to make this that would best fit. And
No, let's vote them all, one at a time. Let's vote them all. Because I'm gonna make a motion.
We got a motion.
Vice Mayor.
We've got a motion and a second right now. To vote as a slate.
voted as a slate. Okay. We're not, this as a slate as is, or
Let's say, yes, ma'am. This, as a slate.
okay. There's a motion on the table.
Yes.
And a second, that this is voted as is. Any discussion on this?
I do have a question. I noticed that I'm the only alderman that's not sitting on one of the 3 core committees that are just made up of aldermen. Is it possible that someone who has 2 spots there might consider letting me serve in one of those committees? So I guess that would mean that I don't want to pass it as a slate because I would hope we could amend this.
And I don't understand how, when I look at it, and I honor what you're saying.
Absolutely. Well, there's 9 seats and there are 6 of us. So that would be 1 for everyone that can and wants to serve. And then some folks might get 2. And that's at your discretion, of
course, and I really am excited to serve on the ones where I have been nominated, but, you know, if there's an opportunity to do more, then I would love to.
I appreciate that. And the ones that I thought we should be on, or that they are heavy. I mean, some don't meet as many times, but I do appreciate you saying that.
I'm willing to give Julie any spot I've got other than safety. If what you want other than safety, and I'll be tempted to let you swap with
You can give it a street committee.
I'll give up wherever you want to be on.
Julie, I'll give you one line.
I'll make a motion, I'll make a motion to amend the general slate to place Alderman Anderson Street and remove Alderman Bellamy Street.
Second that motion.
Right now, it's on the table that the slate has been, you make a motion to take Alderman Bellamy off of the slate and put Julie in.
Alderman Anderson onto the street bottom.
So the person who made the
I'll
motion,
withdraw.
the motion
Yes.
and then add this as a new motion.
Yes.
So I'll make that as a new motion.
I'll second it again.
Okay, right now, the motion is with amended, with Julie on there. The slate is, and with the change of is as is with Julie in the box. Okay. Does everybody know what we're voting on?
Absolutely.
Call the roll, please.
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Anderson.
Aye.
Alderman Bellamy.
Aye.
Alderman Hobbs. Vice Mayor Massey.
Aye.
Alderman Parsley.
All right. With that, any comments from the board?
It's been a long time, but I want to say, give a shout out to animal control on the tethering. That's something that's been worked on for a couple of years. We passed some stuff years ago, and we keep passing some good ordinances that give him the ability to actually govern our animal control. We need to have to keep that from being respected. They've done a good job presenting good ordinances and resolutions.
Alderman Anderson? Any comments? No. Alderman Bellamy? Any comments?
Well, did we adopt this?
We did.
I thought you pulled your,
I withdrew my first amendment because of Ryan. You two changed it. Ryan made the second amendment. I seconded it. We voted on it. And we adopted
I don't have a problem with that, I just thought we got a little housework. One thing I want to state to city employees that are here, in the past, you and some other city employees, or they may not be a soul in this room this applies to. But you can call me and talk to me anytime you want to. I don't care who tells you you can't talk to me. They don't speak for me. And it just kind of, pardon my French, pisses me off that somebody's got the nerve to stand up and say, oh, you can't go talk to Bob, or you can't go talk to Julie. That's garbage. We run the city, and how are we gonna run it if we don't talk to the people that work for us?
Yes.
So you can come and you can talk to me anytime, and if anybody tells you that you cannot, you tell them that I told you you could, and then you tell me and I'll address it to that person. I'm tired of people sitting around saying, oh, you can't talk to the alderman because we don't want them to know this, or we don't want to know that. And probably 99.9% of the time, we're gonna go see you park.
I just know that, I know y'all think I'm not for a lot of people out there, especially when it comes to annexation and results. But I'm not against you, and I appreciate you going to stay in your position. I do appreciate that, and I'm willing to listen to anybody about just about anything. Thank y'all for coming tonight.
With that, I'd just like to say thank you everybody for coming, and I'd like to comment. Amanda, you did your homework. But anyway, with that, I'll hear a motion to adjourn. So you're second. Okay, after this, call vote for adjournment. Go make sure.
Alderman French. Alderman Anderson. Alderman Bellamy. Alderman Cox. Vice Mayor Messing. Alderman Parsley.
Okay. After this, we did have their board meeting.
Gene,